we dive into a fireside chat that challenges how we measure success in the age of AI, titled From KPIs to Key AI Indicators, Rethinking Performance Metrics. In the spotlight is Richard Jackson, a seasoned C-suite leader who has worn many hats, from CFO to COO, and now Chief Transformation Officer at TASC Outsourcing. A transformation strategist by practice, Richard blends financial discipline, operational sharpness, and a people-first mindset. He has led major tech implementations, built high-performing cultures, and understands what it truly takes in today's AI-powered world, especially in the dynamic Middle East talent landscape. It's a conversation that promises to be practical, sharp, and future-facing. Let's dive in. Over to you, Richard and Trupti.
Hi, Richard.
Good afternoon. Good
How
afternoon
are
to everybody. Thank you for that lovely introduction. It's very kind of you.
Thank you for being here, Richard. It's an amazing pleasure to be talking to you. And like we mentioned earlier, with the advent of AI and the whole thought process, we're seeing tremendous amount of changes happening in the way every single persona from the CXO and the boardroom has to be thinking about business, right? So why don't we get on to the more specific topics that we're going to be talking about today, very specifically, changing of matrix from KRAs to key AI indicators. That's essentially, I would love to pick your brains around on those topics. Before I get there, I definitely want to, touch upon the tremendous experience and, expertise that you bring on to the table today. 30 odd years of experience, and you've seen something that is traditional tech now moving to AI. You've seen the whole journey grow, and you've obviously right now are in the midst of transformation using AI. And we maybe we should just start with how do you look at it? What do you see, and how excited are you from this whole thought process?
Okay, thank you for having me today. I'm really honoured to be here, and thank you for the kind introduction. I think if we look at kind of where technology is moving, I've been working in kind of staffing human capital solutions for over 20 years. And I've worked kind of primarily in UK, but also kind of internationally, and then found myself now working in the Middle East, in UAE and Saudi Arabia. And I think what I would say is that we're at an inflection point now with technology, so historic technology and emerging technology. I think that we see that the big kind of software products, I won't give names, but if we look at some of the big names that we have in ERP, and if we look at the big names that we have in CRM, and these are big pieces. We're a staffing business, and I've been in staffing in the last 20 years. So we're about kind of payroll, we're about deploying associates into our client premises. So there's quite a factory behind that. And that's been when I worked in UK, we had 45,000 associates, and we have about 8,000 associates here in the Middle East. What we see now with AI is there's an inflection point. The old technology in ERP and CRM, HCM, is now kind of meeting a junction point where there is now like more agile, sort of smaller plug and play softwares, which are now starting to, I don't want to say eat the lunch, but they're coming now for these big players. And I think there's going to be an interesting point of how does the old tech, what I call old tech, embrace the new tech, and how does it embrace AI? And I think that this is a very important point for everybody who's listening, because most of the people who work in a kind of corporate setting or of a larger business where you have these big products, the big products, these large behemoths, as I call them, they're trying to embrace AI, right? So some of the big ERP products, they're trying to embrace AI, but very unsuccessfully. And even some of the big CRM players, right? So if you take a Salesforce, we're embedded with Salesforce. We love the product, but their AI product, they're trying to bring to life very, very as much as they can, but it's quite slow. And I think these products are going to find themselves, if they don't move quickly, and add value, I think there's going to be some big change in the market. So we're excited, but we're keeping our eyes open to look at how can we use kind of homegrown AI and also product AI in the market to kind of ensure that we make our operations, our business, move quicker, be more efficient, be able to serve clients better, and how do we serve our people better as well with improved process and making their job more interesting so they do meaningful work.
Absolutely. I think, Richard, that's one point that I think we've all also at Network Science pretty strongly resonate to the fact that AI has been a great ground leveler. It's opened up doors for so many smaller companies who now, because they thought future, they've now been able to compete with the light behemoths that you talk about, right? I think that's an amazing, and that's essentially what kind of leads to the inflection point that you're talking about, right? No longer are large companies assured that it is going to be their way of doing business, right? I think that's an amazing. Yeah,
I think it will change for them. I think unless they can react quickly and unless they can provide quick solutions, which are also well priced for companies as well, right? Then they will have problems in the future, and they're going to have to try and think about how they solve that. So yes, I agree with you.
Very true. So having said that, Richard, and having spoken about the journey that you've been a witness to, let me now slowly move towards the point that the topic that we've been wanting to discuss, right? About the matrix from KPIs to key AI indexes. Let's possibly begin by setting some context. As someone who's led large transformations and somebody like you who comes from a finance background, how do you currently define and measure success in your initiatives? And how could possibly AI be driving these matrices differently? And how do we look at how AI-driven matrix can enhance this particular process?
Okay, so I think when we look at how we've done it in the past, a transformation normally has a business case. So that business case is going to give you some degree of financial return, whether it be hopefully increased revenue and lower cost and more efficiency that in essence will drive a greater profit from your business. I think the transformations also will give you some better insight into how you're going to serve your customers better. Are you going to make their life easier? Are you going to reduce that friction between you and the customer, right? The friction is what causes challenges and maybe some negative feedback and where you might lose customers. I think internally for our team members, can we make, you want to make their life easier, you want to make the job more meaningful, you want to, give them better systems that they can use. And I think then that transformation is about how do you actually adopt it? We've put in a lot in the last 12 months, we've put a lot of new technology into our business. One of our challenges has been that of adoption, right? How do you change people's mindsets and trying to understand how do we make sure people adopt the system and don't kind of recreate what they did in the past? And I think, we measure a lot of those by very simple metrics, right? Whether you've got increased revenue, margin, profit, we use customer NPS within our business. So has your customer NPS gone up? Have your complaints gone down? And then maybe use some Six Sigma to look at waste, like have you reduced your wastage, etc. So you can quite static measures that are often, you're just looking back at them the whole time. I think the advent of AI and what we've seen in our business is that when you start to use AI and put it into your processes, then actually you're going to start to see that you can do things more quickly, right? The AI, for instance, should be able to help you with, once you've done the transformation, are you seeing those benefits? So are you seeing reduced number of complaints from customers? Are you seeing on your surveys, what's the feedback your customers giving you? Well, instead of waiting for somebody to do a collation of those to bring them out of the system, put them into a Word document, a Word cloud, whatever it is you do. Actually, the AI should be going through that continue. The agent can go in, pull that data, and then start pushing that out to everybody quickly. Okay, client A has got a problem here with an onboarding or a PO that's burst or an invoice is wrong, then someone can react quickly. So I think that would help. I think the other piece is, the use of, looking at the forward-looking side of things is very important. Can you use it for predictive analytics? Can you look to see what the future is doing? And I think the other piece then is like how does it help our people? Because I think we'll probably touch upon this is the adoption of AI into a business. Everybody is there's lots of positivity and excitement about that, but there's also for the team members, there's a lot of fear that my job is going to disappear, right? And I think that's one of the things that many businesses need to think about how they overcome that resistance to people using AI because they're nervous. So I think the other piece then is that the AI in this context of transformation, it should be able to help you with seeing the results or seeing where the transformation is failing because the AI is able to give you that insight and quickly, and then you can react quickly to it. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. So essentially, Richard, as I hear you say, instead of banking on historic data, what you're essentially saying is now with the help of advent of AI and with the help of AI, you're actually looking at probability more, predictive more, and real-time intelligence more, so that we can arrest problems right at the source instead of waiting for them and then having a post-mortem done like we would otherwise typically do, right? I think that's a fundamental shift that AI is now bringing, that there's so much of real-time analysis and prediction happening there. Having seen this shift, which allows us to spot inefficiencies much earlier, which I think the traditional KPIs wouldn't bring. I think that's a very powerful perspective that we're bringing in, Richard. What role do you see in AI in predictive and optimizing operational efficiencies, which you did just touch upon about how AI can become a performance multiplier? Walk us through a little bit more on the predicting and the optimizing efficiency part of the story.
So let's take two examples. So so in our business, we're an outsourcing business. So we do a huge amount of payroll. We have a lot of people that we deploy to clients. We do a lot of payroll, and with payroll, the most important thing for that is getting the data correct. Is having a good set of data. So having your data correct, whether it being for the payment of the associate, but also for how do you invoice your customer and getting that correct. Same for all companies. For us, one of the things that we're seeing at the moment, and we're putting in place is we're seeing that actually the issue of like, is the data either complete? Let's just start with completeness. So you need all the data there, right? And most businesses, there's always, if there's some manual entry, people don't quite do it properly, right? But then it's spotted at the it's either then spotted too late or it's spotted long down the process. For us at the moment, we're using automation and AI to actually scan that master data continually to look for those issues and find those gaps and then display them back to people. So that is it. So for us, that's a preventative measure to make sure that we catch that issue before somebody tries to do a payroll or somebody tries to do an invoice. So for us, that's very valuable, because in the old days, you'd either wait too long or someone has to eyeball rows and rows of Excel, or they put formulas into Excel, and it's not live in real time. The second piece for us in terms of efficiency is if we look at where we're trying to see, I guess, get some real gains from the efficiency of using AI in the business is, I think it's maybe not quite answering your question, but it's a good example, is actually to start to help our teams with the automation of, say, prospecting customers. So we're using AI there now to bring in and help our salespeople to automate that prospecting, but also to then start the the automation of the prospecting journey via cold email as well. So we're trying, and that means it's much more efficient, because actually the teams just use a chatbot. They then start the process, and they can step in when it's required. So we see that there's lots of potential for lots of automation and use of AI all across the business, to see that we can get some gain in efficiency, whether it be from a sales perspective, but also from a preventing of an error and preventing of rework. But because that whole rework piece, it costs businesses,
Absolutely.
huge amounts of time and cost every year.
Yeah, absolutely, Richard. Richard, very interestingly, you touched upon two very key aspects, I think, which I definitely had on my mind that I would love to discuss with you. One being the fundamental, the platform on which, let's say, AI is built is data, and second, of course, people, right? Possibly, let's start with the people aspect of it. How do you, the human side of transformation, how would you address resistance or skepticism from teams who are so used to the traditional KPIs? And now we are looking at a seismic shift where we are talking about real time and, arresting something even before it happens. So there's no more firefighting, there's prevention that we're trying to talk about and all of that. Walk us through to the human aspect of how, I'm sure there's so much that you're already doing in that area.
Yeah, I think that the challenge for all of us who are in business is sometimes the people aspect doesn't always come to the top of the pile. Everybody gets very excited about the AI, the automation, the new tech, and what it can do, but sometimes there's actually the people side of things gets forgotten about. For me, there's a few aspects to it. With respect to AI at the moment, then there's clearly a lot of concern from people, from our teams and from other teams everywhere. Everybody sees that, that if you kind of watch it, if you look at Instagram or you look at LinkedIn, then there's lots of fear factor there for people.
Absolutely.
I think the way we're approaching this challenge in our business is not that AI will replace you as an individual. And I think this is very common. A lot of people say this. It's not that the AI will replace you, but it will be somebody will replace you who can use AI better than you can. And I think it's really true though, because I think that many people are not embracing it at all. Now, in our business at the moment, we're desperately trying to roll out. We have people who are able to take a license, whether it be ChatGPT, Copilot, etc. We desperately try to get people to do it. We've had training across the business. But unless, it's very interesting, unless somebody really desires the fact that they are going to really use it, and you have to force yourself to use it every day of the week and every hour. If you have to think like every task I do, I need to try to use a Copilot or a chatbot to help me, then it won't happen. So for us, that AI piece, we try to help people with. We have had training. We have like a hub in our teams where people can share prompts and stuff. We're trying very hard to do it. And I think you have some real evangelists who really are into it, and you have some people who are not, right? And we have to try and help those people as much as we can. I think in terms of for new processes where we have automation, like for instance, we do some of the big products that we were talking about earlier don't really allow much of agentic AI to get into the system, right? So you have to use Python to do kind of what we would call bots rather than AI. And actually, even with those types of bots, you also have resistance. People don't use it as much as they can. And I think, again, there's a fear factor. But for us, it's about trying to educate people, show them the value of it, the fact that it allows them to add more value, to maybe look at just the queries rather than do the processing, and look at the exceptions that arise from it. So, and I think the whole thing is just about communication. It has to be communication, over communicate to people. What is the value? Why have we done this? Why are we trying to do this? Why are we trying to make sure everyone can use ChatGPT or Copilot and do prompts? It's in some respects, we're trying to help everybody to actually embrace it, because if you don't embrace it and you don't find yourself being able to use it well, then you're going to struggle, right? So,
Absolutely.
and that's what
Yeah.
we're trying to achieve with people. And it's no different with people like myself and the rest of our senior team at TASC, right? We have to all push ourselves to actually go about using it as much as possible. And I think actually the senior team, I mean, I personally now, I have to use it continually for the things that I'm doing in terms of transformation, because I have to show my workings. Sometimes we don't all know the answer, right? We don't know the
Absolutely.
answers to everything, but actually you've got a resource that can actually give you the answers in a good manner. I can give it to you quickly.
Absolutely.
In the old days, you would have to talk to a consultancy. You may have to get someone in to help you. Now, to be fair, you can get 90% of the answer yourself, right? And if you're not getting the answer yourself, then it's a bit of a waste of your $20 a month. So no, we're very much on that journey with our team members.
Awesome. So as I hear from you, Richard, over communication, education always has to be the first step, right? And converting something into a bite size, consumable, so that overwhelm is taken off and people, are more and more open to accepting it.
Yeah, I
Sounds
think
like.
no, I think
Yeah,
you have to. So there's one thing that's missing. I didn't say, you have to show people as well. Like you have to show them what this is
absolutely.
capable of. Like if you, I mean, I don't know what of the guys who and girls who are listening today. Like, so for me, one of my tasks is, okay, like thinking about our company, we're transforming our company to be more international. We're looking at what new geographic locations could we go into. Now, to be fair, if you go back 3-5 years, you could use Google, right? But it wouldn't really help you that much. Then you'd have to then talk to different lawyers, etc., to give you, and you'd have to pay money, and it would cost quite a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Now
Yeah.
with a ChatGPT Pro license, to be fair, you can get 95% of all the information one needs in a couple of searches. In a good prompt you can find it. So it can save so much time in so many ways. And I think
Absolutely.
anybody there, if you're not thinking that way when you're doing a task, then you're missing a trick. So yeah, that's my advice to people.
Absolutely, Richard. Let's move on to the other fundamental of AI, data, like we were just talking about a few seconds ago. Uh, what what do you think? I mean, how are you taking care of the data integrity and the quality when we are implementing AI-driven performance indicators?
So I think I'm quite a straight and honest person, right? What we find is when I'm ashamed, and it's the same for most businesses. At the heart of your business, there's lots of data there. There's huge amounts of data. The challenge is, I think most companies' data is not well looked after. It's not well maintained, and actually some of it is not good. So, there's lots of tech that people have where you don't have the right mandatory fields, therefore you don't collect the right amount of data. Lots of team members will put in spurious data just to get through a process. So you've got lots of data. Whether any of it's any use to you, don't know. You have to go and you have to look at it. We're in the process now of a full kind of transformation and creating a large data warehouse, data mart, data, I think, lake house. There's so many different ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
But for us, the piece for us at the moment is, okay, what is the data we want to collect? Where is it? So whether it's in your Salesforce, your SAP, whether it's in any other supplementary systems, your ATSs, etc. So that that cleanup is actually sort of underway for us at the moment to make sure that it's there. But again, the advent of AI actually allows, you can use the AI to do it for you, and then to keep an eye on it for you, to make sure that it's checking it for you continually. So for us, that data is very important, and it's of use to us because if you want to be a very customer facing business as well, where customers can interact with you, then you have to get that data correct. If you want that customer to be able to, download a statement, or to download their invoices, or to, look at some other data, their spend data with your number of workers they have with you. You have to have clean data, because as soon as that's incorrect for them, then they'll lose faith in it as well. So we've got to change. I'm sure many companies have been more inward looking with their data and keeping it to themselves. But now, if you're democratize it and be more outward facing, which is what we all need to do, then you've got to make sure that it's in a good shape.
Yes.
But I think it's a very specialist subject. I mean, you've got, and
sure.
there's so many, that whole kind of data in, data out adage is so important. But again, it takes a lot of work to get it into a good spot. So yeah, that's what we're working on at the moment. But we're trying to utilize AI and automation as much as we can, but also to sort of try to do this whole process not once, but to get it into a shape where you really are very clear about what you're trying to create.
Right. I think that explainability that you're talking about and interpretability of data, that's essentially what you're essentially referring to. And I also understand the having the right set of data, yes, cleaning up the data and maintaining it in the right way and protecting it, right? From obviously forward, I mean, it is precious data that belongs to the organization, protecting privacy, security, so on and so forth. I think that's a very, very valid point, Richard, very interesting. I have a couple of questions from our attendees, Richard. I'm just quickly going through a few of the questions that have there. Some very interesting ones that I could see. There's one question that says you mentioned increased revenue and more meaningful work as a key outcome. I think that's, yes, beautifully said. Have you seen any AI-driven matrix that can make, can be made this business value easier to communicate or prove to leadership?
Okay, so that's really on the interest, the meaningful work, right? The revenue is like easy to explain.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
exactly.
on more interesting work, I think like, for instance, it's a great question, by the way, but I think like, so if you have a measure, say, of let's just say you work in invoicing, okay, and let's just say sorry, I go back to sort of simple examples. If you measure, for instance, how many credit notes or reversals that you have to issue every month, right? So that's to me, that's just rework. Then somebody's made an error somewhere, right? So so let's just say you credit 20% of your invoices every month, but you're able to, with AI, reduce that to 2%. Then you see, then the amount of what I would call like people having to rectify mistakes is really soul destroying work, right? Like, really, I've got to do this, right? You have to go backdate stuff, etc. That's painful. So if you can measure those where there's rework or where there's error, if you can reduce that, then for me, the people are doing more meaningful work, because they should be freed up to be able to help in other areas, right? So if you're not doing 20% of credit notes, then that person we should then be like utilizing to say, okay, how can we make things better? How can we then improve our invoicing process? What's your ideas this month? Instead of spending 5 days on credit notes, actually spend 5 days on improving the process. How do we utilize those people better, right? I think that's a good thing to do. But in terms of that there's so many unintended or intentional consequences to, say, reducing rework. Like on invoicing means you might get paid quicker, so then you don't. There's so many good things from that. So I think measure something where is an error and where people have to redo work. Or the other piece is, sorry, just another example for the person who raised the question, where you've got somebody who's doing something which is completely manual, right? So if someone's entering data, right, or they're having to I'm sure that you guys who's listening are quite specialists already, but if it's purchase ledger or if it's some manual task that someone's doing, then think about how you can completely automate that with a bot or AI and some workflow in your system, so that actually the person hasn't got to do that work, right? And that means that they are doing more meaningful work rather than manual entry. So focus on manual, and where there's errors, I think, is where you would get that gain.
Absolutely, Richard. I think in the interest of time, I'm not going to take any more few questions. There are a few questions. I'd love to send them across to you.
Oh,
Maybe we can have
sorry.
we can
Yeah,
have
send
a
them to
follow-up
me.
discussion. Yes, yes, Richard. Thanks. Thank you so much, Richard. It was definitely extremely insightful having you here, having this conversation. We understand the point of view that you bring onto the table about how we're shifting from traditional KPIs to AI-led care matrix, and how education, leading by action, we ourselves doing it and showing it to our teams, and gently nudging our teams into accepting AI as an enabler and something that is not just going to be slightly changing the way we do the business, but the way we think about operations going forward, right? I think it's been an insightful conversation, Richard. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I do
Okay.
look forward to seeing you more often.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your seminars. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Richard.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you so
Bye bye. Bye
much.
bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.